Okay, so I am going to answer three questions about the brain for you to the best of my abilities for my early language development class that I'm taking right now. And the first question I'm going to explain to you is what are the different lobes' jobs within the brain. And the brain lobes are part of the cerebrum in your brain. And there's four different lobes. There's the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, the occipital lobe, and the temporal lobe. And the lobes are divided into left and right hemispheres, and the hemispheres are dominant for different processes or jobs as opposed to the other hemisphere. So the first lobe, which is at the front of the brain, you could say, is called the frontal lobe. And the frontal lobe contains the prefrontal cortex, which is the most recent addition to the human brain. And it controls and organizes info that is brought into the brain. And the frontal lobe also contains Wernicke's area and Broca's area. And Wernicke's area helps with analyzing language and interpreting it, and Broca's area helps with speech production and actually sends signals to the speech mechanism to help articulate speech. And then the parietal lobe is located directly posterior to the frontal lobe, and it contains the sensory cortex. And the sensory cortex receives sensory input from the rest of the body, and then if something harmful is happening, it can send information back to it to help try to protect the body from being harmed by that dangerous stimuli any further. A third lobe is the most posterior portion of the brain and is called the occipital lobe. And the occipital lobe, its main job, you could say, has to do with vision because that's where vision stimuli is sent. And then the fourth lobe of the cerebrum is the temporal lobe, which sits atop the cerebellum and the brainstem. And the temporal lobe is mostly auditory signal processing, and this is partially because the temporal lobe is on the sides of your head, so it's like where your ears are at. So that kind of tells you a little bit about the different lobes' jobs within the brains, or in the brain. And the next question I'm going to try to help describe to you is what the executive function is within the brain. And a good overview or generalization of the executive function is that it helps the brain to function more effectively and efficiently. And it does this by using strategies and activities to help retain essential information that you get from the environment, and then it monitors what information needs to be kept. Because if you keep too much information in your brain, it won't be able to work effectively, because if you're trying to do homework and watch TV, it's too much stimulus, so you have to block out the noise that's not important, and then it helps you to concentrate better on what's important. So that is a little bit about the executive function. And then the next thing I'm going to describe is metacognition, which is also kind of under the executive function. And metacognition is what I have developed by learning about it and telling you about it right now, because metacognition is the knowledge of your own cognitive and memory processes. So metacognition uses problem-solving strategies, and it also, like the executive function, helps to retain only vital information. That way your brain can work to the best of its abilities.